Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno episode 267, and this is a show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week. This week I had 20 books, which is a pretty normal amount for me, so let's get started. Number 20 for me was Wonder Woman issue 59. Just have not been able to get into this series as much as I've wanted to since Rucka's run. Really thought G. Willow Wilson would be the series for me, but so far it has not been. I feel like it's been going through the motions, and honestly the artwork is where it really falters for me. I think the proportions are really weird at times. It's not as strong as I think it should be for a Wonder Woman title with such a big writer on it. Just not really liking the artwork in some of the proportions here. And also the story just hasn't really hooked me yet. It again feels like any other Wonder Woman story. It doesn't really stand out from any of the others yet. So I'm going to stick with it for a couple more issues, see where it goes, but this might be on the drop pile soon. So I'm going to give this one 2 stars, and that is number 20. Moving on to number 19, another series I've been really disappointed with, and that is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue 33. I loved this series and obviously loved this franchise, loved, Higgins' run, but this is a story that I feel like the chemistry of the team has not really been shown. We're very much thrown into our main arc without knowing what the team dynamic is, and that's so important, and it's been really hard to connect to this book because of that, that we have a lack of it. And then we also have a new Power Ranger introduced so quickly. It's a full-on exposition issue of who is this Power Ranger, and I just couldn't feel connected to the story because I just feel like it's so jumbled overall, and also the artwork, and even the coloring. I used to like the coloring, but maybe that's the reason why I feel like it's so dampened the story and why it's so tough to get through. Maybe it's the coloring as well, because it is dark. So I don't know. I just can't get into the story as much as I want to. I do think the pencils have improved throughout, though. I feel like there's more detail, so I've enjoyed that aspect. So I'm going to give this one 2 stars, and that is number 19. Moving on to number 18, which is Detective Comics issue 993. Another book that I've been really disappointed with, and I would have dropped a while ago and I think I forgot to say, I did give this 2 stars, Power Rangers. Sorry, I don't remember if I said that. Anyways, Detective Comics. This is a book I would have dropped a while ago, but because we're so close to 1,000 and getting a new creative team, I've been sticking it around because I've gotten every issue of Detective Comics for DC Rebirth, so I'm like, alright, I gotta, pick up this arc, try to get through it. Still don't like this arc. Still don't really care about the Two-Face stuff. I thought this one was a little bit more interesting because he died, and then of course he didn't die, so I'm like, oh, something's happening here, but I also really don't like the artwork for this book. Just feel like everything feels very fractured. All the pencils and people's faces look kind of fractured with the line work, so just not a huge fan of the art style as well. So I'm going to give this one 2 stars. Hopefully improves after we get a new creative team and kind of get into issue 1000 or the road to issue 1000 for this title. So sticking with it until issue 1000, then I'll make my decision about Detective. Because now it's just very similar to Batman, because Detective was just the Bat Family book, and now the Bat Family's not in it, so I'm like, do I need 2 Bat titles if I'm enjoying Batman? I don't know. Alright, moving on to number 17, which is Return of Wolverine, issue 3. Another book that has just not been there for me. Just seeing it through because it's almost done, and I want to see Kitty and Wolverine interact with each other. That's pretty much the only reason I'm picking it up. But what a slow burn this book, and really just feels unnecessary at this point. We've just gotten so much Road to Wolverine. Now that he's here, it just feels lackluster. And even the interactions aren't really there. He doesn't remember anything, which makes it an uninteresting story for me, at least as a character story. And also the art is not as strong as it should be for a flagship character and a flagship return for this character. So I think it's just not as detailed as I expected, especially because McNiven did the first issue, and then we got another artist, and it has not been as strong. So, given that 2 stars, and that was number, I don't even know, number 16? No, that's number 17. So we're moving on to number 16, which is Marvel 2-in-1, Human Torch and the Invisible Woman, issue 12. This is the last issue of the series, or else I would have dropped this one too, because the artwork, not a fan. Really, I think this is some of the weakest artwork I've seen in a long time. It's not detailed at all. It feels like thumbnails, more of like a first draft of art for the pencils. I just not liking it. I think even there's facial expressions that look different for Sue. Like, you know, this is like what Sue looks like in this panel. And then she looks like a different character over here. Or maybe I think that's actually Valeria. But yeah, Valeria's over there. I don't really like her facial expression. Yeah, just not a huge fan of this artwork. And there's no detail in the faces. Half times they don't have faces. So that really brought it down. Story-wise, though, I actually do like the story. I like that it's Johnny trying to reconnect to his sister after so long of them being apart, and Johnny kind of telling his feelings about everything that happened. So I enjoyed that aspect and thought that was a really good story for this last issue. It just, the art really brought this down. So, and really was hard to get into the story because of it. So I'm going to give this one 2.5 stars, and that's number 16. Moving on to number 15, which is Uncanny X-Men, issue 3. I feel like what really lacks for this book is how long it is and that it's a weekly series. I really think this would have been a better story if it just was a once a month, like 6-issue event. But they're just kind of prolonging it, and it's so slow, and I haven't been able to connect to it. And the big moments are for characters I just didn't care about, like Legion. We get a little bit of him in the issue. Obviously, we've been getting the multiple men stuff. I would say the bigger moments was Legion. And I'm just not really invested in his character, so that's why this was a bit more of a lackluster issue. It didn't really focus on X-Men characters that I personally care for. So I'm going to give this one 2.5 stars, and that is number 15. Moving on to number 14, which is Archie, issue 3, 1941 Archie. This is a series that I've been picking up because obviously I've gotten all of Wade's series and all his run. I want to see how he ends it. I hate that this is the ending of Wade's run. It doesn't feel like it encompasses everything that he did with his other Archie run, which I thought was really great. Here it just feels dated, and I know it's supposed to be 1941, but I felt like with Wade there would be some sort of commentary, but really it's just the women are being weak, you know, we're seeing the men go to war, and that's it. There's no real commentary to it. We've seen this before in stories, so I thought the women would be a little bit stronger here. I thought the supporting cast members would be stronger. One thing I do like, though, is obviously the tone of living in the world of World War II. I thought that was well done, but hopefully there's some surprises in these next 2 issues that make this a bit stronger than it has been. But artwork's really good. I like the obviously how it looks like the time, and I think they did a really good job with the designs to just honestly the hairstyles. You know, I think the art's really great. So gonna give this one 3 stars though. Alright, moving on to number 13. Yeah, number 13. This is higher than usual, actually, and that's Regression issue 13, which I believe is ending soon. I've liked the beginning of the series a lot more than I have the endings. I feel like what we're building up to isn't worth it for me. I don't really care about the actual regression aspect. I like our main characters and I want to see them interact. And that's why I like this issue a bit more, because we do get to see Molly and Adrian interact. But then it's everything else around it where I'm like, oh no, go back to Molly and Adrian. They're the interesting part. So I also love the artwork for this book too. I love that it looks like a camera is, you know, we're watching this through a camera lens. You get to see the focus there. Really detailed artwork. We'll see how it ends. And also there's some good stuff with Molly's friend, the hypnotist, or maybe she has another job that's related to that. So that was cool. I enjoyed that aspect. So there's definitely smaller moments I enjoyed here, but I still like the beginning of the series a bit more for this one. Now, I don't know if the build-up was worth the payoff yet. We'll have to see. So I'm going to give this one 3 stars, and that was number 13. Yeah, that was number 13. All right, moving on to number 12. Sad to see this a little lower because I've been enjoying this series, and that is Action Comics issue 1005. This has been my favorite. Haven't been liking Superman, but been liking Action Comics, weirdly enough, because before that, it was switched. I liked Superman more, and I didn't like Action Comics as much with the previous creative team, but artwork is always so detailed. That is something I've been really enjoying. I love the inking for this book. It's intense, but at the same time, it really brings out the levity of Clark Kent as well. Like, look at that smile over there. So I enjoy the coloring and inking a lot for this book, but I miss Lois. You know, I think that's the part I really liked, was the build up to Lois. Now that she's not here again, I'm like, oh, I want her again. You know, I want her in this series. But we do get to see some mentions of Lois. I do not care about Red Cloud in this issue, or the Dial H stuff. The Dial H stuff was weird, and I feel like it was just promoting Brian Michael Bendis' new lineup for DC. I'm like, why is Dial H here? But I like the ending with Red Cloud, where we find out the person who's been working for the Daily Planet is Red Cloud. So I thought that was cool, and hopefully it will lead us into a more interesting story for the next issue. But it was hard to live up to last issue, which I really enjoyed. It was actually my pick of the week, and probably the only pick of the week for Superman this year for me. But yeah, it wasn't a bad issue, just it went in directions I didn't quite care about, like bringing back the firefighter and, again, Dial H. So I'm going to give this one 3 stars, and that is number 12. Moving on to number 11, which is The Flash, issue 59, which feels like it's going through the motions again. I was like, alright, we find out one element of the Speed Force. Let's move on to the next villain. So kind of feeling villain of the weekish, but still like the interaction between Iris and Barry. I like that this new Citizen Cold, or Captain Cold, is in the mix and is a good guy. I like that aspect, obviously coming from the TV shows, but still, artwork's really well done, really detailed. And if you like Gorilla Grodd, I think you'll enjoy this one. I'm not a huge fan of the gorillas, so I wasn't as invested. But still a cool issue and some good character moments overall. And it's been a solid run for me. So I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars. Alright, moving on to number 10, which is Fantastic Four, issue 4. There's a lot of 4s here, because I also gave this 4 stars, and then in the end, they live on Yancey Street in building number 4. So, yeah, lots of 4s. Too bad this didn't land on number 4 on my list. I'm sorry I ruined that. But a very solid issue. I would have liked to see the Fantastic Four interact a little bit more. I think the beginning was a little crowded. There's a lot of characters. You get Spider-Man, Iceman. You even have a new team, which is the Fantastics, and we find out a little of their origins. But the stuff I really liked the most, honestly, was Valeria. I really liked her a lot, where she knows that her superpower is being smart, and everyone kind of pushes her to the side. And also, I like that she played dumb because she had a crush, and then Reed's like, no, don't do that. You never play dumb. Don't hide yourself. I love that scene. So there's definitely a lot of strong character moments here. A lot of cute moments. Obviously, them moving the Yancey Street. It's just them adjusting to being on Earth again. But I wish there were more core Fantastic Four moments in this issue, just because it's been so long. But and there's a lot of other elements mixed in from the beginning with so many characters, which brought this down a little. But overall, artwork is really solid. I actually think it's stronger than Pacelli's artwork. I enjoyed Caselli, which they both have like a similar part of their last name. Anyways, I thought the artwork was stronger in this issue, so giving this one 4 stars. Alright, moving on to number 9, which I was pleasantly surprised by this book, and that is Ironheart, issue 1. And I will say, I really enjoyed all these books from Fantastic Four up. This was a really good week for me, so I enjoyed a lot of books this week, and it was a really hard top 5. But anyways, Ironheart, issue 1. I did an in-depth review, so I won't go too much into detail, but the artwork is drop-dead gorgeous. That's really what got me, especially like the actual Ironheart parts. So look at this beginning here. Some really great artwork and just sleek, and I really like the facial expressions for Riri. And overall, I think this is really new reader friendly. So if you've never read an Ironheart book, jump on. They explain everything about Riri's character, but also for people that have enjoyed Ironheart, you get a really good cliffhanger with Natalie, which was Riri's friend, which I was so happy to see. I think she's one of the best parts of Riri's character. So I'm like, yeah, Natalie's back. I'm totally sold for the rest of this issue. I will say, because it's $4.99, there's definitely some slow parts. They're just like, they had to add things where I wish they didn't. Like Clash as a villain. I'm like, I don't care about that. Let's move on to the next segment of this issue. So that slowed stuff down, but I still thought this was a very solid issue. So I'm going to give Ironheart issue 1 4 stars. I'm going to take a sip of water, and then we'll move on to the next thing. Okay. So next is number 8, which is Heroes in Crisis, issue 3. Again, I really enjoyed this issue. I've been enjoying Heroes in Crisis. I think it's been a really solid series. I want it to be more than solid, but I really have enjoyed all the issues. It's a little slow, but I enjoyed this because it was unstructured. I saw some people complaining that they didn't like how scattered it was, but I like that. I like the chaos of the issue, and that we don't know everything that's happened. We're missing pieces. And we get some really good emotional beats here between Wally, Booster Gold, and of all people, Lagoon Boy. Young Justice fans know not to like Lagoon Boy. But this Lagoon Boy you really felt bad for, and you really get into their head, which is exactly what I wanted from the psychological story of Heroes in Crisis. And obviously, oh, actually this is Week's artwork. Does pretty good job at making it, or I felt like, yeah, Clay Mann was on this series. Anyways, they do have very similar art styles for this, because I didn't even notice. I'm like, wait, there's a different artist? But yeah, Weeks does a really good job, really showing the emotion here, and then obviously getting to the moment of where the situation happens and how people die. And then it looks like Harley did it, because she's the one who hits Wally over the head, but what happened there? And I like that it builds up the mystery more from a different perspective, and you get the emotions that you wanted, or at least I wanted, when this was first promoted. So overall, I'm going to give this a solid 4 stars. I've been personally enjoying the event, so I can't wait to see where it goes. How many issues are there? I think there's like 10? 9? There's 9. Alright. Moving on to number 7. People are going to be surprised by this. Spider-Girls, issue 2, and one of these dropped. Really solid issue. I just kind of wish this was an ongoing instead of, and this would have probably been higher if it was, because there's only one more issue left, and I don't feel like that much happened in this one. I think there's so much promise between May and Annie's relationship, but just not enough time to really expand upon it. But I did like the emotional beats that were here. I liked Annie's relationship with Normie and comparing that to May's relationship. Couple art things though, good and bad, and I actually really do like the art style. I think it's so clean, and this is some of the best we've seen from an Annie series. But anyways, one thing was the flashback with Normie. It looked like May and Normie were naked, like they had sex or something, and in that scene they just kissed. So, because it was like a throwback to the kiss scene, and it just didn't look like they were wearing anything. So I don't know if that was an art thing or they were trying to say something else, but that was just a small nitpick. But I actually do like how much they pull out of the Spider-Girl series. You get the tattoos exactly like it was for Normie, and even some of the callbacks in the art when May's talking about her life with Anya. Let me see if I can find that. Yeah, over here, we get to see, you know, May playing basketball, and then we get to see the Ron Friends homage to one of the really great pinups of Spider-Girl. So I enjoyed all that from the artwork. Story-wise, I really like May. I think we get to see her voice really clear here, and obviously her worries, you know, seeing this life that's so similar to hers and how it's changed, and how she feels. And we saw this with DeFalco's run, too, and in the Spider Island stuff, how she feels the day-to-day life is not important anymore because her father is gone. So I'm wondering how they're going to wrap that all up in the next issue, because again, it just feels like it started to build up. And then I also like the Normie stuff. I didn't really care about the bug aspect as much. That's why it's a little lower, because the actual plot, but I do like the character moments a lot, and I like the way they're dealing with Annie's visions as well. So giving this one a solid 4 stars. So, moving on to I told you this was a good week, and another week that would have been in my top 5. But yeah, moving on to number 6, another book that would have been in my top 5 in another week, but Fence, issue 12. The ending of the single issues of Fence, which I'm upset that they did not promote the graphic novels. at the ending of this, for people who are not into the comic beat news, they might miss out. So hopefully they do promote these graphic novels so people buy them. So I was a little upset with that because it just says to be continued, like there would be another issue, but they're going to have a graphic novel and you're going to have to wait a little. So kind of wish they talked about that. But anyways, really solid issue. We get to see Nicholas and Eugene make the team, and they're really happy, and you see the perks of being on the team and them kind of connecting, and it's a really fun book. The artwork is perfection for me. I love the anime style that they have and the cutesiness of it all, so I really like the story and these characters, and I'm looking forward to the graphic novel and glad that the story is continuing. And if you like anime sports stuff, you definitely should go check this out, or any sports storyline. I think it's a really solid sports narrative, which we don't really get to see that often in comics. So giving that 4 stars, and as number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is Strangers in Paradise XXV issue 8. Really impressed with this series as always. I love this opener with Kachu's voice. Really love the narration here, you know, looking back at her life and seeing the importance of Francine. But what I really liked about this issue is how all the other more stories are connected. You get the connection of Echo with Alaska being pretty much gone, but then you actually get to see the other characters, Jet and Rachel, and you even get to see Sam. So I thought this was a really cool issue, and it builds up to see Lilith from the Rachel Rising series, and we'll see how that's connected to the Papyrus. So it's definitely building, and I feel like there is a lot of great stuff here if you're a Moore fan, not just a Strangers in Paradise fan. So really solid issue. I'm going to give this 4 stars, and as always, just great artwork. I love the black and white, and just obviously that Moore does all this work, and I love that. You could really you know, see that it's a one-person job, and then that's obviously a rarity in comics, so I think that's cool. So I'm going to give that 4 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider, issue 2. A book that would have been higher if the artwork was a little stronger. I do like the close-ups of Gwen, but when it's far away, it's not as detailed. And I also thought the coloring was stronger last issue than it was this issue. It didn't blend as well for me. And those are the small nitpicks I did have of the issue, but the story was really great. I think it kicked it to high gear, where Gwen learns more about this world, that this Gwen was actually Green Goblin, which honestly is so much irony with obviously what we know about Gwen and her relationship with Green Goblin. But also we get to see that Harry was the Spider-Man of this universe, and he died because of Gwen, and there's so much guilt. Her father died. It's just a lot of great information here, and a lot of sad information where you feel connected already to this world. So the only way for our Gwen to go back is to actually get through to this Green Goblin Gwen and say, hey, build me a watch so I could go back. And it's MJ and Peter who's obviously wants their friend back. And I will say I'm going to probably do a topic video on this. It seems like MJ and that Gwen maybe were a little bit more than friends, so I'm curious if that's going to pick up in the next couple of issues, if they're trying to keep that a secret and then kind of make it a reveal in the next issue. But I'll have a topic video kind of going into that a little bit more, but let me know in the comments below if you kind of caught on to that as well. I really liked the story. I thought it made me interested in this world where I kind of not forgot, but I'm okay with them taking a break with Gwen's world to kind of explore this one. I think it's been an interesting connection to Spider-Geddon. So I'm going to give this one 4 stars. I thought it was a really solid issue. Moving on to number 3, which is Batgirl, issue 29. I've been really enjoying this series, especially finally someone's focusing on Jim and Barbara's connection with each other as family. And we get to see Barbara once again push herself to try to save people, and now she's getting the surgery. How's that going to work out? Jim was also in the hospital because Grotesque's plan. And we also get to see Batgirl and Grotesque team up, so I thought that was interesting. I do think it was a very easy turnaround for Grotesque to be like, yes, I'll be on your side. My only complaint of this story, but the emotional beats are so there, and I love it. And I think this creative team really has the voice down for Barbara, which I really like. And even the detail for Barbara, where we get to see her surgery. We get to see stitches all the way in her back. I've never seen that with Batgirl, so I thought that was really interesting. And then we get a cliffhanger of the FBI wanting Jim. So what's that going to be about? So a lot of good stuff here, but a real emotional punch, which I've been enjoying about every issue of Batgirl, that's been able to balance this Burnside aspect of her character with the emotional weight of Gail Simone's run on Batgirl. It's just been a really perfect series for me. So I'm going to give this 4 stars. Definitely pick up Batgirl if you haven't been. I think it's the character at her best in a long time. So moving on to number 2, which is the Loud House After Dark issue, or volume 5. I do have this physically. I got it off Amazon. It was a little damaged, so they're getting me another one. So, I guess it happens with Amazon sometimes, or else I would show it to you, but it's a little damaged, that one, so I'll let you know when I get the next volume of it from Amazon. But anyways, yeah, so I really enjoyed this volume. It's definitely my favorite of the Loud House because it's connected, but there's so many like shining moments from all the sisters, and I like that we get to see their night routine. I especially enjoyed Lori's story with Lola. I thought that was cute that Lola ended up sleeping in Lori's bed and she's being the protective sister. I like the connection of Lenny just like sleepwalking throughout the whole entire graphic novel. Obviously, Luna being the highlight of the issue, where we get to see the song that she's kind of makes for Sam, and obviously a character we haven't been able to see in the show, but we've been able to see in the graphic novels, has been really great. So many great character moments, and definitely the best volume of the series so far. It makes me really excited to read the next one. So giving that 4.5 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1. This was an obvious pick for me this week, and happy to see it here, and that is The Amazing Spider-Man, issue 10. Damn, this was a great issue from Spider-Man to MJ. And I like the way it connected it. I will say some of the parts with the actual villain, I'm like, oh, okay, how are you going to connect this? But somehow it works. But the MJ stuff is what really makes it, where MJ finally opens up, and we learn why did she get back together with Peter. And it was actually Flash, and it made sense. And why she loves Peter, but why she's important to Peter as well. And I love that, yes, it also explores another romantic relationship, or a previous romantic relationship, which is Black Cat and Peter, where Black Cat explains to Peter why she didn't like him. And the explanation actually makes sense with One More Day, which is another topic time I'm going to do on Frontline on Friday, where is Nick Spencer trying to erase One More Day, because once again it is mentioned and is actually a reason that Black Cat's like, I don't know who you are, and that you kind of erased all my memories, and she doesn't know that until she finds out. And then Peter's like, hey, I'm Pete, you know, you're allowed to know. And I love that, and I love that MJ's not jealous about that relationship, and I'm glad that they're really fixing things that have been a problem in Spider-Man for a little while. Artwork's really well done from Ramos's side of the Thief Club. And I also like Ms. Marvel's appearance with her saying, my phone's in there. We could just figure it out that way. I thought that was cool. And then also really love the sleekness of MJ's artwork as well. So really great story. If you're a fan of either Black Cat, Peter, or MJ, I feel like this is an issue for you. Really enjoyed this one. One of the best of the series for me. So I'm going to give that 4.5 stars, and that's my pick of the week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links for my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. Don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. Also, obviously every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Comic Frontline, we have Frontline Live, where we talk comic news and top 5 comics. So definitely be sure to check that out. It's also posted post-live if you can't watch it live. So go check it out. Go check out Comic Frontline. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.